why keep the ship afloat? What is the main mission and purpose of the Slater being around today?
The main mission, our biggest goal, is to educate the public on the history of these ships. It's such a small portion of World War II, and so many people are fascinated with World War II. But these ships play such an important role, and there's 563 of them built during World War II. They helped shut down the U-boat problem in the Battle of the Atlantic. They helped on occupation duty in the Pacific, and they're relatively unknown. You know, they don't have the big flashy stories like an aircraft carrier or a battleship getting to fire their 18-inch guns. But these ships are kind of the workhorses of the fleet. You know, they go in and out of these convoys. They're going very slow across the Atlantic, making sure these merchant ships arrive to their destination and get food and provisions over to all the citizens in England, who are an island nation, depending on us to get stuff. And these ships are just really important to make sure that all that happens and to stop the U-boats in their tracks and really turn around the war. Slater started her World War II service in the Battle of the Atlantic. She made 5 convoy trips across the Atlantic, and she went to all kinds of different ports over there. You know, London a few times, over to Wales, up in Ireland and Scotland, all kinds of really fun places. We actually sell a t-shirt in the gift shop that is supposed to look like a concert t-shirt. And so it says World Cruise 1945, and it lists the different ports on the back. So you can see 10 or 12 of them that they visited. So really cool.
Do you know if any of the crew members ever married a Welsh or English woman?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
So my name is John Epp. I'm the curator at the Destroyer Escort Historical Museum aboard USS Slater in Albany, New York. And the Slater is one of 563 destroyer escorts built during World War II. The main job of the escort was to escort all the ships, mainly merchant ships in the North Atlantic, going from East Coast to England, also into the Mediterranean and Africa. But they also escorted aircraft carriers, troop transports, battleships in the Pacific. The Slater mainly served in the North Atlantic. Her home port was New York City. From October of 1944 into May of 1945, she escorted convoys to and from New York City, all the way to England, Ireland, Wales, things like that. The main job of the Slater was to escort convoys safely, and she had a 100% success rate on that. When Germany surrendered in May of 1945, she did go to the Pacific. The war with Japan was still ongoing. By the time she arrived in the Philippines, though, Japan surrendered. She did continue escort duty throughout the Pacific, mainly escorting ships from Tokyo and other ports in Japan to the Philippines, and getting the sailors back home. In January of 1946, she did return to the United States, came into San Diego, and then she was decommissioned later in 46 and sent to the mothball fleet at Green Cove Springs, Florida, where she sat for 5 years until 1951, when the Slater, along with a couple other destroyer escorts, we were kind of giving them away to all of our allies. We didn't need these ships anymore. We had hundreds of them. In fact, over 500 were still left. So the Slater was donated to the Greeks. They needed some help. So they renamed the Slater to Itos, which means eagle, and the Greeks used Itos for 40 years until 1991, when they were going to decommission and scrap the ship. A bunch of World War II destroyer escort veterans got together. They formed the Destroyer Escort Sales Association with the goal of bringing one of these ships back to the U.S. and turning it into a museum. Almost happened with a couple of destroyer escorts in South America. Those plans fell through. But then they heard about the Slater in Greece, about to be scrapped. And they more or less called up the Greek government and said, hey, can we have the ship? And they said, sure, we'll give it to you for free. But you got to get it from Greece to New York City. That cost about $300,000. They raised it from their members and the general public. They hired a Ukrainian tugboat, brought it from Crete, across the ocean to New York City. Now, this ship was in horrible condition. The rust was rusting itself pretty bad. Our insurance company actually gave it a 50% chance of sinking on the tug across the Atlantic. Fortunately, no storms were met. She made it safe and sound. So they do some repairs, and she was moored alongside the Intrepid, the aircraft carrier in New York City, until 1997, when she was tugged up the Hudson River to Albany. We've now been here 25 years.
Almost everything in the Navy has a different name. This is not a floor, it's a deck. This is not a ceiling, it's an overhead. This is not a wall, it's a bulkhead. This is not a stairs, it's a ladder. What do you think they call a door in the Navy?
Hatch?
A door. I said almost everything. Kids get a kick out of that. So the collection space is here. This is our display area for artifacts that we have in the collection. And this is actually a fairly new project, opened for a year or two. And I think an excellent use of the space in terms of showing things off, putting lighting into the lockers, so you can use that as a display space as well. My father and my grandfather passed away. We don't know what to do with this, but we want to preserve it. And that's a big part of our mission here, is to try and preserve these records and these things so that the people and the ships are remembered.
What is your favorite item in the collection?
My favorite item is right over here. It's a life raft from the last U-boat sunk in World War II. So this U-853 was just off the coast of Rhode Island. Pretty much as the war ended. You can see it's dated May 5th, 45. And a destroyer escort, the USS Atherton, actually sunk this U-boat. And then as debris was coming up, they rescued not only some sailors, but also the life raft. And we've also got the captain's hat here, and a photo of all of the shipmates with their loot that they found. So I just find that fascinating. It's one of the last U-boats sunk during World War II, so kind of the end of the war and the accumulation of it.
Cool.
And up until last month, the Atherton was still serving in a foreign navy, and it just sunk in a typhoon just last week. So it kind of hits close to home that.
So how many of DEs in that family are left?
5 destroyer escorts worldwide are left. Slater here. There's one in Galveston, Texas, the USS Stewart, and then 3 others worldwide.
It was the one that sunk in Thailand. Was that the last actively serving one?
I think it had just been decommissioned like back in 2018, so it was technically mothballed, but they were contemplating turning it into a museum itself, so that's all over now.
Amazing that these ships are still serving up.
Isn't that insane? Like this ship, we struggle just to keep it afloat here. We struggle to keep watertight integrity and make sure that everything is looking good, but can you imagine people still serving on it? Would just be amazing.